All right. I believe the recording has started at this point. Hello, everybody watching from the future at some point. Today is May the 15th, 2025. So some of you may be watching this, may be like, yeah, that's yesterday. And some of you may be like, wow, that was 100 years ago. So let's see what these old geezers here have to talk about today. But seriously, thanks everybody for tuning in. And this is a part of a series that I'm doing to capture some interviews with people that I consider IT legends within the Texas Comptroller's office. These are folks that are absolute, fixtures of the IT community within our organization. So we have about, with our contractors, about 400 IT folks, and the Comptroller's office itself has over 3,000 employees. But this is a very special limited series for folks who have been here for a long time and they're basically just walking legends. You just know who they are when you see them. You're like, man, that guy's been around. He knows a thing or two, and there's no debating it. So anyway, one of our biggest legends since I've been here, just everybody knows him. He knows a little bit about everything, it seems. And one of the great guys here in our IT org that we are going to miss is Randy Doyle. And he's been here for quite a while. We'll get into his career trajectory. The official thing I saw was started in '96, but I'm curious to see. Sometimes that's off a little bit here and there, but we'll get into his work history. Anyway, but before we do that, I'll kind of open this up and let Randy do some talking. And before we get into the work stuff, I'd like to kind of touch base on where you grew up and what was life like as a kid. Where'd you go to school or anything like that? So Randy, tell us about life before the comptroller's office.
Well, I grew up in a little small East Texas town outside of Lufkin, Texas, called Hudson. I grew up on a farm. Basically, I had horses, cows, pigs, chickens, all types of animals. Also hunted, so part of that we always found like baby pet squirrels I raised, raccoons, a pet deer. Uh, I grew up with three sisters, mom, a grandmother, all living, two houses side by side. And my father, he worked in the logging industry, so I was raised with doing a lot of that at that time. Uh, Sorry, phone, crazy phone calls. Uh, I grew up loving to ride horses and gentling them. I learned to break horses at a very early age and train dogs. My father, he had a real touch with animals, and he kind of passed that on to me. Uh, Growing up was just, I mean, I was involved in sports, school, high school. Hudson was at the time one of the top ranked 3A schools in the state of Texas. We had a lot of very intelligent people. I think I graduated 82 people out of my graduating class. And of those, I think 76 of us all had a B plus or above average. So very, very interesting. Very, a lot of learning going on. Great teachers. I really enjoyed that. Growing up, though, I knew I wasn't going to be able to afford college. So my college was the U.S. Air Force and on the job training. So I kind of let you know where I come from.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's a great background, and I do identify with a lot of that. Although for me, Central Texas, but very similar deal. Grew up in the country, 3A school, 88 people, my class, but and a high performing, some, anyway, it varied. Results vary in these small towns, but it sounds like you had a solid background for sure, and beautiful East Texas. I love East Texas. Used to have some relatives and family there and friends. So still always look for an excuse to get back there because good barbecue out that direction as well. I would argue the best, but yeah. And so thanks. Yeah. Thank you for your service in the Air Force. So just quick aside. So what did you do in the Air Force? Just curious.
In the Air Force, I went in as telecommunications specialist, which meant I actually worked basically in a switching center. Anything that was going out from the Air Force Base, we had to manually retype all the reports and stuff. onto what they called a teletypewriter, which also spit out a paper tape. And when I went in, I had learned to type on a manual typewriter in high school, but that was kind of the first run at computers. We worked on a what they called a Dusty terminal, DSTE. It was
Okay.
digital subscriber terminal equipment, and that's what the military had at the time. And we were connected worldwide to every base, but we had to retype all these things with this paper tape because it read that paper tape in an old ASCII code. A lot of
Mhm.
people don't even know what ASCII is anymore, but
Yeah.
ASCII code, and also we had punch cards
Oh,
for
yes.
major database updates, and that was a Hollerith code. And I actually learned to read both of them just on site. And we would transmit, our inventories, our work plans, uh, and I actually was working at Little Rock Air Force Base, which had the Titan II missile wing, which was
Oh.
the nuclear silos. And so
Mhm.
we actually had to deal with them, had to deal with their, all sorts of mission planning, et cetera, any type of trajectory changes, et cetera. We were the backup to the actual command post that did that. So we had to have a special category top secret clearance, which meant if you've ever had somebody go through and actually talk to your high school teachers and your parents' employers, that deep of a background check, that's how deep it was. And while
Wow.
I was in, we actually transitioned to electronic tape,
Mhm.
OCR, things of that nature. And that's where I started learning various coding languages, processors, moving on through Astronautics of America equipment. So very interesting. It kind of piqued my interest in electronics. It piqued my interest in computer operations, uh, what I consider really the heartbeat of any agency. Because if operations isn't running, that means your mainframe, your servers, your batch processing, networking, something's gone wrong. And those are the first line employees that actually are jumping on trying to get that thing fixed and get it up and running again. So they actually feed the whole agency. So they're kind of, in my opinion, the heartbeat.
Mhm.
So
Oh, I totally
that,
agree. Yeah.
so,
Wow. Oh, that's a fascinating background, which I had no idea. So certainly you've been able to witness kind of the dawn of computers of used in government, if you will, and that quick evolution of shifting from true paper and typewriters to connected long before internet. But I'm sure some of that became the foundation for the internet. I would suspect kind of all that stuff morphed into because I know the
yeah,
Department of Defense was pre-internet. That was kind of the Department of Defense's network, right? And then the
yes, it
internet
was.
off that. So that's fascinating. Yeah, wow. And the nuclear missile tie-in, like what a time. You've seen a thing or two, Randy. So
Uh, well, just a quick little story real fast
yeah,
on
sure,
that
sure.
is
That's why we're here.
right as I was arriving at Little Rock Air Force Base, they always had people, somebody take you around, show you where everything's at, chow hall, whatever. My barracks was actually part of the Titan II missile wing people, the people that worked on it. And the
Yes.
guy that took me around, he was really nice and everything. Well, about 5 days later, we had an actual missile blow up in the silo in Damascus, Arkansas.
Oh,
And we felt the reverberations all the way in Little Rock and Jacksonville, where the base was at. Uh, there was one fatality. Uh, Basically, they were working on the missile. Luckily, the warhead was not activated. They dropped a wrench. It bounced off. It punctured the propellant, which ended up causing the whole thing to blow up. They were evacuating all the people in the command area in that on that silo. It literally picked up the bomb doors and threw them about 10 foot away. It
oh,
picked up rock and threw it through a megaphone, klaxon, speaker that was mounted on a 100-foot pole. They found that 4 miles away in a farmer's field
oh
and
my
brought it to
God.
the base. The guy that passed away was the guy that actually took me around. He had
Oh,
gone back in because he had not seen one of his buddy get out because of the smoke and everything, and he went back in to get him,
oh,
and he died in the blast. So it
oh
was
man.
very interesting. That was a kind of a very interesting time. And then a real funny one was about 2 years later in Arkansas. Bill Clinton was the governor at the time, and they had gone out on a police raid and raided a marijuana field. And the stalks were like 6 inches around in
Oh,
diameter. And
oh,
they cut them down and they put them in dump trucks and they hauled them all the way into Little Rock, Arkansas, into the town to an incinerator.
oh boy.
And they thought it was a really smart idea. Let's just burn all this weed.
Hmm.
Guess what? That smoke came out all right and settled for miles and miles around,
Oh,
including the military base. We
oh.
had to lock down because we were all stoned out of our mind, not knowing why or how. We just knew all of a sudden, kind of smoky, but wow, it feels good.
So chow
So
hall open. Yeah.
yeah, the chow hall's opened real quick. We got a lot of munching going on, but that
Hungry
was just kind of
mouth.
a crazy thing that happened, and I was like, oh my lord.
Oh
But yeah,
man, that's great. Oh, wow. That's incredible. I love those stories. Yeah, thanks for sharing those. Yeah, and I mean to blow the doors off the missile silo. A couple of years back I went to a missile site, abandoned one in New Mexico near
yep,
Roswell, off the map, not referenced anywhere, but you can find them. And those things are, I mean, it's just massive. It's like bank vault practically
yep,
doors. So the
exactly.
force, yeah, that's incredible, and yeah, very sobering, I'm sure, for the guy that you knew, showed you around, and to lose his life.
Yeah, just crazy.
Man, but yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. That's fascinating. So, okay, so then life happens, and so how did you wind up kind of going from Air Force to to Austin to work at the Comptroller's office, or anything in between there, or how, tell me a little bit about that journey.
Well, after I left the military, I moved back home, and within a couple of months, I finally got a job on with Temple Inland, which
Hmm.
is a major plywood,
Oh yeah.
hardwood plant there in Diboll, Texas, which is like 4 miles from Lufkin. And I worked as a night shift computer operator. And that's where I started learning more about computers, of course, and everything. We had IBM mainframe, DASI devices. We had 3850 DASI devices with removable platters. So
Oh
in other
yeah.
words, databases, you actually had to go in and unscrew, peel out this stack of platters, and you put it into a special storage and put another one in, and then continuing writing to it, etc., as
Wow.
well as multiple tape drives on all the round reels, starting anywhere from a 900 PPI, which is a little tiny reel, to a 6250 at that point. Temple at the time bought out Guarantee Federal Bank, which was kind of a banking chain around, and we decided to combine our data center with the Guarantee Federal Bank. Well, it was here in Austin, Texas,
Yeah.
and we were at Third and Congress,
Mhm.
which has a nice little place underneath in the basement called the Elephant Room. But I digress. We were actually on the 11th floor, so that was kind of cool. I had floor to ceiling windows. I actually looked out over the frost bank, could see the eagles flying below me, while I'm standing there. And at that point, I was the operations manager for them. We combined all that, and then we started building a new building out on Barton Skyway in Mopac. And I helped design the data center and the operations area there. Uh, and since then, when I left there, it was basically, I've always been pretty blunt and open. So I kind of ended up on the bad side of a vice president who asked a question and didn't like the answer. So I was kind of blacklisted for promotion or sideways move or anything else. I was trying to get over into our mainframe system programming staff, and I was getting blocked at every turn. So CPA had just lifted a hiring freeze, and they had several openings in computer operations area. Well, I applied for all three of them. I got an interview, and eventually I was hired as an operator 3 in May of '96, and that's when I started here. Uh, so that's kind of how I started. It got to CPA.
Okay. Okay. No, that's great. So, oh wow. So you certainly were here during part of the golden era of Austin, where it was quite as busy as it is today, and a lot of the the old stuff that everyone looks back fondly at and
Oh
everything.
yeah.
So, sure, it was a fun place to be as well. So, yeah, interesting journey. It's funny how life just kind of takes you from different places and leads you to things you never would have expected, and certainly our gain and their loss. Good thing for that vice president or whoever. So, yep, too bad for them, but good for us. So, certainly. So May of 1996, so 29 years ago. Huh? So, wow. Okay, so then you got started at CPA. So, so tell me a little bit about your early memories of CPA, and who was the comptroller when you started, and what was life kind of like at CPA and the IT organization? Like, what did it look like?
Well, let me just start with, Austin was like you said, it was not like it is now. It's still a major culture shock for somebody from East Texas. The town I come from has about 30,000 people, and to me, Austin was freaking huge. And it was scary trying to find my way around, even just getting to the grocery store or something like that. Our parking garages, QR, all those, they were actually just parking lots. We had a little bitty cafe right down on the corner. Uh, but the fun part was when we had football season. Tailgaters were crazy. I had never seen this in my life. I mean, they would set up couches, generators, big screen TVs, barbecue pits, everything out there in the parking lot. And over the years, it's kind of been interesting to see how everything kind of changed. I mean, I live currently in Pflugerville, and when I got here, 685 did not even go all the way through. It stopped at Howard Lane. Now it goes all the way through to Hutto.
Oh yeah.
130 wasn't even constructed. So,
Mhm.
major growth and changes. CPA here, I believe when I started, uh, Mr. Sharp was this, trying to remember, it's been a while and my memory is faulty. I worked for, I had Carol Keaton Rylander, Carol Keaton Rylander Strayhorn, I had Mr. Sharp, and then we had, of course, our uh, Lord, missing her
Miss
name.
Combs. Yeah, Miss
Yeah, Miss
Combs.
Combs, and then finally Mr. Hager.
Sure, sure.
And it's been interesting to see each administration come through because everyone did have their own little things, attitudes, things they liked, things they didn't like, etc. So it's been very interesting to watch it, watch the, over the years, see how things grow and change.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, I personally have, like I said, worked with a lot of them. I have, of course, because computer operations where I worked in, we have to do every time there's a new comptroller change, they sign all the forms, they sign all the letters, they sign all the warrants or checks that we
Yes.
processed. So
Mhm.
every time they did, we had to digitally figure out and recreate their signatures and save those and build those into all of our programs and forms and stuff so that we could get those electronically signed.
Mhm.
Uh, I remember Carol Keaton Rylander Strayhorn. That was the longest one I had ever seen signature. And we had some pushback on it because we had to squeeze it together to make it fit on the line. We only had so many characters and to get
Sure.
it all fit in. So that one was a lot of fun trying to get that one worked in. It took a little bit of additional trial and error to get that one done.
I bet. Wow, unbelievable. Well, yeah, that's I would never think about that, but yes, I'm sure that it was shrunk down. It's like, well, that trust me, that's her signature. That's pretty good. And so, just side note to the audience, the comptroller, Mr. Hager, will be leaving at the end of June, so he's in his less than 2 months out of walking out the door as well. So you just missed out on coming into another administration, Randy, but which we don't know who that is. Interestingly, at this
Yeah,
point in time, we don't know who that is. But Mr. Hager's on to Texas A&M for chancellor of that system, as Mr. Sharp did, right? So it's an interesting kind of
yes,
career path there. So anyway,
he's go he's going to the enemy.
oh man, come on, dig 'em, man.
UT,
I'm an Aggie.
UT,
I'm an Aggie, man. Come on, man. No, they're
UT
bad.
fan. I grew up with both of them. I had a brother-in-law that was a UT fan and an uncle that was an Aggie. And I had to sit on Thanksgiving. I had to sit on the couch in between them because I could throw
Oh,
elbows, keep
house
them in line.
divided. House divided, man. It's
Yep.
it's tough. It's tough being an Aggie fan these days. I want to get into that, but everybody, go back, look at the sports records, look at our what we should have done, and then what happened. And gosh, dang it! But next year is always the year. Next year we're
Next
going
year.
to be really good. Yep, next year we're going to be good. Started off this
Yep.
year as baseball #1 in the country, and now we're
Yep.
not projected to make the final 64 for the College World Series, playoff system. So gig them.
Mm.
Anyway, so yeah, but no, it is fun being in a college town, even as an Aggie and all that. It's
Oh yeah.
and I'm sure the tailgating that happens, like it's awesome. I mean, it's college. It's a college town, although probably not as much now, per capita or as a percentage as it was when you started. Probably, to your point, like
True.
yeah, tailgating, and that was really an integral fabric. I'm sure come every Friday in the fall. It's like, hey, it's almost game day, everybody. We got everybody already setting up and stuff. And even since I've started in 2008, I've noticed like kind of a retreat of seeing that as much. And parking
Yeah.
garages and new buildings have taken over the space where they used to have some of that. Yeah, interesting kind of changes in that. So let's see. So okay, so let's get into some more of the work stuff, I guess. Just out of curiosity. So again, you've been here 29 years, been under those different administrations, each with their different flavor. And I know coming in from Ms. Combs and then to the Hager administration, both Republicans, but very kind of different, different styles. And
Yep.
I've enjoyed Mr. Hager's quite a bit. Ms. Combs was very driven, and I appreciated what she did. But to me, it's been a good. It's been a good 10 years with Mr. Hager. But getting into some of the, kind of the IT stuff, and no shocker, I'm sure you've seen multiple heads of the IT departments kind of come through, and some more successful perhaps than others. And currently it's Jay Waldo, who's my boss. Had been there for in that role for 10 years, I guess, roughly. But tell me a little bit about kind of the IT the IT organization, and maybe some different things that you might have worked on or stories. I'll just kind of let you talk about anything you want to bring up from your time in IT.
Okay. Well, when I started in IT, Martin Ramirez was my supervisor here, or manager over the data center areas. And that included the network team, control M teams, operations, uh, server teams, tape library. We were all up on the fourth floor. Uh, Equipment was, a little bit dated at times, but I've seen things move, different types of DASD, different various mainframes, from water cooled mainframes on and on. When I first started here, I was a computer operator 3 working the night shift. Uh, we had a water cooled mainframe, and they had a water leak into what was feeding it. And no one here had ever known how to shut it down. And IBM, we contacted them because we were getting alerts and everything. And I got on the phone because I actually knew the guy. He'd been my CE over at Temple Inland. And he's like, shut it down, Randy. You know what to do. And I just started shutting everything down, powering it down. And everybody's like, what do we do? What do we do? I said, shut it down, because if you don't, you're going to burn up this thing.
Yep.
So uh, that was one of those, right off the bat, it kind of set the tone that, okay, I was not somebody that just walked in the door. I've been doing this for a little while. And, people started looking at me. Well, I moved from there to an assistant shift supervisor, eventually a shift supervisor, and then operations manager within 10 years. I moved up the chain. And then from there, I've become the cab chairman, the change advisory board. We used to hold what we called an MRN meeting, maintenance request notification meeting, and that has morphed into the change and release management under ServiceNow as we brought that application in. I've also served as disaster recovery duty manager and then eventually disaster recovery coordinator, data center facilities manager. I picked that up a few years ago. I have been a coach and a mentor to operations staff, which at one point I had over 28 people reporting to me. I continue to mentor, assist, teach people for the change and release management and for disaster recovery. I have gone through multiple managers over the years. Dave Boyd was my manager at one point. He is now, CISO, ISO. Got Jerry Collins, went to work through him, and then also now Kevin King is the IT infrastructure manager. Jay Waldo, I remember when he started here in PMO office, and he and I actually butted heads a few times when they were trying to do budget cuts and trying to figure out how can we reduce, costs. And he wanted me to get rid of one of my printers out of the operation, computer operations area. And at the time, we had to have 3 printers, and it was funny trying to explain to someone who didn't know that area and didn't know the work levels and stuff why we needed that redundancy of 3 instead of just 1 or 2. So he and I had to go at each other, but we developed at that point a respect to each other. He asked some intelligent questions. He had some good ideas, but it just didn't work out for me. But I've worked with him now, ever since. And, to this day, I respect him and his willingness to at least listen to me when and people have gotten to that point where when they ask questions, they know I'm going to give them the most honest answer I got, whether they want to hear it or not. That's up to them. It's one of those things. Don't ask a question if you don't want the answer, type thing. And that's kind of the way I've always worked for the long times. I've had lots of good things here at CPA. I loved it. A lot of funny moments over the years. Always loved the holiday pictures with Santa Claus. And then when, we've added the Grinch and Santa Claus. Those were always fun. And then one year a couple of years, we had Santa's little helpers. We had a couple of the ladies dressed up as Santa's little helpers and took pictures with us.
Yes.
The Halloween group dances, they had the Monster Mash and they did Thriller and a few others. That was always hilarious to watch the different people that would actually go out there and kind of do line dancing in the parking lot. It was great. It was great to watch it. Of course, during Mrs. Combs' year, we had the perkyisms. Everything was perky, and it was, the things that people would come up with to call it perky or perkyism or whatever. It was perkitude or you name it. It just, things just got crazy. I got after a while, I personally got tired of the word perky, and I don't think I've used it since until today. Some challenging times. We always had challenging times. We had, budget cuts. We've had hiring freezes for operations. A lot of times, even as a manager, I had to go in and fill in and cover for various shifts because we got so shorthanded. And that was typically due to, like, we had multiple retirements, had a lot of older staff members that retired pretty much all at once. And we were in the middle of a hiring freeze, couldn't hire anybody. So we got down to where we were like 3 people on a shift where we normally had 6. All right. Just like I said, that budget cuts, staffing cuts, everybody had to pitch in and do more with less. but we made it through because, the staff was dedicated. They gave up a lot of their personal time to just make sure things got done. The work was covered, uh, on and on. So, you know, I've always had a high respect for these people that give up their time and willing to do that, go that extra mile. Uh, I do remember one real fun time. It was we were doing a DR exercise in the middle of an ice storm, freezing weather. I-35 was almost untravelable because 18 wheelers were sliding off the road, and we were all stuck at the DR facility, which was up off of North Loop. And it's kind of funny sometimes. You work around all these managers and you don't really know how to take them because work is work and their business and they're handling all this, and you're just a lot of times you consider yourself a worker bee. But when you see these DR managers stuck there and they're just like everybody else at that point, they're exhausted, they're tired, they're falling asleep on couches, you hear them snoring, drooling in their sleep, you know, and everybody else is trying to come up with something to kind of keep us awake and alert, because we were basically stuck and nobody could come in to relieve us. And we're trying to get this DR exercise done. And so it's just sometimes it was hilarious to watch, see a different side of people and realize they're just people too. They have
Yeah.
higher responsibilities, but they're just another person. So, it's always kind of interesting to see, another side of people that you may not know or never would have fathomed or thought of them.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
that's
Absolutely. Wow. Yep. Well, that's yeah. No. That's a lot of that's a lot to digest, and you painted a really nice kind of picture of that whole kind of CPA experience, and the good and the bad, but you made it, yeah, 29 years here, so certainly it sounds like overall a positive experience, and I think it speaks to starting off as so computer operator is kind of where you started, right? So I mean, what a journey! Like, I think it speaks to, at least at the comptroller's office, like there are opportunities to kind of expand and grow and go into different roles. And certainly, you've started at, computer operator, and everybody at this time, like that's sort of lower on the food chain, to be quite frank. It's kind of where some people start, and then to grow from that. And we've seen it over and over, be it help desk that Nancy's hiring or whoever, people just growing into these different roles, and even myself a little bit too. Like I, started off business analyst stuff and then into architecture things, and so yeah. Anyway, you've certainly demonstrated like, hey, if you work hard and you know your stuff, and also I love the frankness of I think that's good advice for anybody is, hey, say what's the truth, and it is what it is, and if people don't like it, then well, that they need to digest it, but that's not your problem, right? So people do
yeah. I
respect
mean,
that, and the way you've operated and conducted yourself, and that's why you are, again, an IT legend. I'm not just saying that to be nice. Like, there's no question. Like, hey, this guy carries respect down the hall. You make a lot of good jokes and stuff, so which I appreciate. You always keep things entertaining, a little sense of humor, but also very well respected. And anyway, I think that's why you've been very successful here, and it's a good lesson for anybody tuning into this. I don't care if it's 100 years from now. Work harder than those AI bots, by golly, and you'll be successful. But
well,
yeah,
you've got to keep learning. You
yeah,
can never. Something my grandmother taught me many many years ago. We had a pond, and I know this is a little off topic, but we had a pond that was fed by a artesian spring,
mhm.
and it kept fresh water going in there. We had fish, frogs, snakes, everything in it. And she asked me one time. She says, "What would happen if that thing got blocked off? That artesian well got blocked off? What would happen to this pond?
Mhm.
It would stagnate and die."
Mhm.
Now, my grandmother she was a teacher as well. And she said, you never stop learning. If you do, your brain, your mind stagnates and dies. So continue to learn all your life. And when I took over as operations manager, by the way, I was the operations manager for 14 years.
Yeah.
There had never been anybody that handled that job for more than 5 prior to me. 5 years was the max. And
Uh-huh.
because it was so, I mean, you're pulled in so many different directions every day of the week, and
Yep.
it doesn't stop. It's 24/7,
Mhm.
365 days a year. Um, so that's something you have to do. Never stop trying to learn. Don't get comfortable. Remember, something's going to change. New stuff's coming out. Learn it. Keep
Yep.
trying to learn. Be willing to learn. Don't think you know all of it, because when you think you know all of it, you're setting yourself up to fall.
Mhm.
So last little tidbit there. I'm sorry.
I know that's great. I think that's perfect advice for anybody, whether they're coming in or been there. Maybe even better advice the longer you've been there. It's like, no, you keep learning. Things didn't stop, just because you've been here a long time. Like, it doesn't matter. You're how long you've been there or whatever. Like, yeah, keep learning. That's wonderful, wonderful advice. Uh, well, let's see. So outside of the work stuff, so where does life lead you now, Randy? What's next in your
Well, I'll be actually moving north to be with my children and my grandchildren. So
oh
I will be leaving Texas, and that's going to be a huge challenge to a lifetime Texan. Uh,
yes.
both of my sons, one is living in New Jersey, and one right across from Philadelphia, and the other one lives in Pennsylvania. And so all my grandchildren are up there. So I will be transitioning, moving there in the next few months. That's going to be culture shock again for me. I hope they're ready for the Texan coming to their area, but don't know. Uh, I Another thing probably most people don't know, I currently am a ministry lead with my church for Celebrate Recovery, which is a
Oh,
Christian-based 12-step program. I've been involved with it for about 17 years. So when
oh,
I get there, I'll be looking for a new CR wherever I land. Uh, my wife and my kids, they already have a long list of things for me to do, between repairing things and then also teaching my grandsons, how to do stuff around the house, yard work, repairing whatever, as well as working with them. They've already got me set up. They want me to volunteer with my youngest grandson's 4-H group, where they actually have, pigs and cows and, things of that nature. And also my oldest grandson, who is taking horse riding lessons and learning how to handle horses and stuff. So I'm sure I'll be a part of all that. So there's not going to be a lot of time just to rest on my laurels and retire, but uh, so that's kind of the things I'm looking forward to, just being around my grandsons, hopefully being able to set an example to them and my granddaughter, just be more a part of their lives, because over the last 11 years, my wife and I have been kind of long distance grandparents. We fly
mhm.
up and see them when we can. We try to get them on, Skype or whatever,
Sure.
FaceTime. But it's not the same as being with them day to day. And so
No.
that's something that I really miss, and I want to be a part of their life with that. So that's kind of
Yeah.
where I'm headed with that.
That's fantastic. And I have 100% confidence you will represent Texas well, show them what a Texan can do. And you are, I mean, you're like, if you ask the AI bot to create who's a real Texan right here. I mean, it had to pop out something like you but from the background. I love it. The background, the small town and working your way through and then in the military, all the way to 29 years of a often highly stressful, highly technical, and the operations manager. Your role, it really is a heartbeat. That hey, if stuff goes down, guess who gets involved, and guess what? It's always an absolute emergency. Like that's almost anything else can break. The building can lose power, the traffic accidents or whatever. But at the end of the day, yeah, all these other areas. They usually have a little wiggle room, but as soon as systems are down and operations is right in the middle of that, then guess who the pressure cooker's on. So you survived 29 years of career and pressure cooker and thrived. So yeah, I'm sure you definitely have a well-deserved retirement coming up, and certainly, yeah, focus on family. That's the stuff that's important, and and giving back, to the roles that you described. And I have 100% confidence you're going to be a hit wherever you go, Randy. So, but a little culture shock, I'm sure. And barbecue is going to suck. You're just going to have to deal with those things. Pretty good pizza up that direction, though. So, take what you can get. But
yeah, but Mexican food sucks up there too.
that's true. That's true. I mean, and for me, yeah, Mexican food and barbecue, that's my two food groups. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's a little tough. So but you'll hang in there. Maybe you can show them a thing or two about that stuff as well. But well, this has been great, Randy. So is there anything else that you wanted to add? Any other stories or anything else you wanted to say before we close this out?
Just a few, maybe a couple little tidbits, mostly
Yeah,
for new employees and everything.
certainly.
But first
Yeah,
of
good
all,
advice. Mhm.
I'd like to tell people, learn the rules and the proper process to get your job done correctly. Shortcuts are going to come later, but if something breaks, you're going to be held accountable to what the written procedures are. That's always going to be the case. Second, be responsible and accountable with your work and everything, every piece of it. It matters whether you think so or not. You got to be, responsible. Self pride is sometimes the only thing that's going to give you any satisfaction. Sometimes you'll be recognized at first, but if not, sooner or later it will come out. If you did your work correctly, everything, it's going to show and others will notice it. You know, it's the old saying, if you can look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, I did my job to the best of my ability every day, then you are a success. And third, never, ever be afraid to ask a question or say, I don't know, or to offer up an idea. That's how innovation and change occurs. Change is a part of life. So you got to learn how to just roll with that. Everything's going to change in your life. Nothing stays static. Nothing. Uh, and the thing is, you only get one life, and you're going to be remembered a lot by your work. So strive to do it well. And a thing I've fallen back on, and it's something I read in a management book probably back in 1994 or so. And it's called Dirty Foot, DRTFT. Do it right the first time. It's talking about taking that extra moment, that extra few seconds to ensure that your customers, which include your coworkers, are treated right and go that little extra mile to assist them and make it right. Okay? Because in the end of if you do that, you'll always be remembered as a rock star or a legend. There was an airline company that did that. They empowered their first line employees. They stuck to this dirty foot thought process, and they turned a failing airline company around and turned it to one of the third largest airlines in the world successfully. So think about doing that when you're working with people. Don't always think, I don't have the time for this person. Go that extra mile, take that extra step. Yeah, it might cost you a few seconds, but you're going to get so much more appreciation. You're going to get people that are going to be repeatedly looking to you for suggestions, ideas on how they need to work or how they need to do a project or something. Those are the people that become your legends, your rock stars that you always, that are always people are looking up to, that make a difference in your work life. So, just I look for people. There are certain people in my life here and at the comptroller's office that have been my legends. They've been my rock stars. And when I have a question, a problem, an issue, I know to go to them because they're going to give me what I need and they're going to be honest and truthful with me. So just think about that as you go through your career. You need those in your life, but become one of those to everybody that's coming up. So
Totally.
that's kind of my philosophy.
So well spoken, and that certainly, certainly from my perspective, that's what you've embodied and why we're talking today. And it kind of spreads, and I love it, and it's kind of a cultural. Uh, I'm losing the word in my brain here, but it's kind of it's part of it becomes part of the culture, and it's almost learn by example, and that's certainly what you've exemplified from my whole time I've been here. That's what people see when they work with you, and it does inspire others to do that. And so I think that's great advice for anybody that's coming into this organization or anywhere. And it does kind of become infectious, and that's how you build a strong culture and a strong organization is people like you, and then pay it forward, become that person, and anyway, that's I guess we'll kind of cap it off there. But Randy, thank you so much, and congratulations on an incredible career and being a true legend here in IT at the Comptroller's office. I mean, your reputation deservedly is stellar, and I know everyone's going to miss you. I mean, you're one of the legends that we hate to see walk out the door, but also are very happy for with your next exciting chapter of your life. So thanks again, and congratulations on an amazing career. And I guess that's it. Thanks again, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much.